Good evening. Just to give a little moment for our panelists to get seated in their seat, my name is Todd Kuntz. I'm with Local News 8, Eyewitness News 3, and Fox 5. Glad to be with you tonight. This is all about you. This is not about me, and I want to know what stands out to you in that video, and I hope that you leave here tonight armed with information, whether you're a student, a parent, a guardian, a friend, a neighbor. And you can take that information and be armed with knowledge. And we'll talk about how we can get your questions answered a couple different ways. Right now, I want to introduce our panel tonight, seated here on the stage with me. And we are lucky to have each one of them here. You'll recognize most in the video, the documentary you just saw. First of all, here on the left end is Deputy Daniel Sperry. He is a juvenile detective for the Bonneville County Sheriff's Office in Idaho Falls and the surrounding area. And through his 25 years on the force, he has spent time as a school resource officer and as a patrol officer. He is the crisis negotiator for the Bonneville County SWAT team. Outside of his law enforcement career, Deputy Sperry advocates for student safety. Since 2014, he has taught more than 10,000 education professionals. Next to him is Heather Hansen from Eastern Idaho Public Health in Idaho Falls. She is a health education specialist. As part of her health education department, she coordinates the tobacco and vaping cessation and education programs, working to inform the community about the health outcomes of nicotine in the body. Heather oversees cessation classes, works one-on-one with clients and partners with schools to spread education and awareness. Seated next to her is Peyton Burrell. I believe she is from Fremont County. She attends school at Madison High School in Rexburg, currently as a senior. She plans to attend Idaho State University and did your senior project on vaping. Seated next to her in the white shirt in the center is Mr. Stuart Young. He is a respiratory director of Minidoka Memorial Hospital in Rupert. For 13 years in Idaho and Utah, he has teamed up with Idaho South Central Public Health District to educate students, teachers, and parents on lung health and vaping and smoking dangers. He has served as president of the Idaho Society of Respiratory Care. He volunteers as a firefighter and EMT and has worked with people dealing with trauma and chronic disease. Seated next to him, you may recognize Brogan Uscola from the documentary, taking his time here tonight to talk with each one of you. He grew up in Rupert, not far from here. He attended Rupert Elementary School, East Minico Junior High School, and a semester at Minico High before he graduated in 2021, a year before his class, doing online school through Penn Foster. And finally, seated next to Brogan, Mom. His mom, Stacy Uscola. Thank you all. Thank you for being here. So I'm going to tell you how this is going to work tonight. Again, as I mentioned, you want to be armed with information and knowledge. And there's 3 ways we can do that. We want to ask our panelists questions, your questions. There's a microphone right here. You can come up to the microphone and ask a question. If that's a little too much or a little shy, that's okay. You saw the QR code. We will take your QR questions anonymously. I will come down there, and I have a very lovely helper, Brenna Christofferson from Eastern Idaho Public Health. She's the one receiving your QR questions anonymously. And we do want you to ask any questions, whether a student, a parent, or a guardian. And if you'd rather, I'll come down and I'll sit with you and we'll visit. I'll ask you a question. You just talk to me. Is that okay? Again, it's not about me, but I'll tell you what. It jumped out so much in that documentary that was just crammed. There were two things. It's about talking back and forth, and this isn't a lecture. That jumped out at me. This is not a lecture. If you're feeling a little bit in the hot seat, this is not a lecture. This is a chance for you to get some knowledge and come away here a little enlightened. Okay? So let's do that. And I'll get things rolling, and I think we could go so many ways here, but I want to go to Brogan. You said you were 13 when that started. You vaped first time when you were 13.
Yeah.
And that seizure, the first one, immediately followed.
Shortly after.
Yeah. You still questioned if that was the source of the seizure.
Well, when I was told it was from vaping, I didn't believe it.
You didn't want to believe it?
I didn't want to believe it, so I just kept doing it.
So it took the second time.
When I had my second seizure, it finally woke me up.
Like that's it. Can I ask you, what, if anything, what would have changed that day? You remember that day when you were 13, you took that first hit. Would anything have changed your course of?
I don't know. That's a hard question because you don't want to lose your friends or anything like that for something, like you want to do anything you can to stay in your friend group. So when they're doing it and you're trying to fit in, you're going to do what you can to fit in. So the first time I ever did it, I knew it was wrong. My parents have always told me don't do it. But I didn't want to be the lonely one at school.
The pressure, the peer pressure.
Peer pressure, for sure.
That's tough to stand up against.
And today I see it as you'll always find another friend. Don't take peer pressure. You can't replace yourself. You can always replace a friend, though.
You've graduated, and probably some of those same friends at that time are no longer in your circle now.
Yeah, well, in fact, 90% of the people I hung out with in school from the time I started vaping till today are still vaping.
90%.
Believe it or not. And they've seen what has happened to me. They know what happened to me. But when my mom took me and basically brought me away from everybody, they dropped me and kept doing it. So.
And witnessing what happened to you was not enough to discourage them. Okay.
No.
Mom, that was a hard day.
Very.
Seizure 1, seizure, don't know what's going on, and then seizure 2 with an idea of what might be the source.
The second one, I was just angry. The first one, I was terrified and I was scared and upset. The second time, I was just mad. I was so mad. I wasn't, because after I found out it was from vaping, I thought, why would you do that again? Why would you put us through this a second time?
So you kicked into overdrive mode, very protective, I saw through the
Absolutely.
documentary. I do want to ask, that probably worked on your end, but the constant oversight, Brogan, did that work at all for you with Mom over your shoulder all the time?
Yes and no. It made things harder because I was always angry with her being on my back all the time.
But now looking back,
But
But
he's
now,
alive.
now looking back, like I'm much happier. I'm doing a lot better. That's for sure. I'm probably a lot healthier than I was. That's another thing.
we're glad you are, you bet.
Yeah.
I took extreme measures. I know I did. But he's here.
Yeah.
He's alive.
Every situation's different, and you have to take the measures that you feel are most
Absolutely.
appropriate. Okay, get those questions in, or I'm going to be coming down here shortly. I want to get all of our panel represented real quick. Deputy Sperry, vaping, is it a problem in Bonneville County?
It is. We have 6 school resource officers and a DARE instructor with the Bonneville County Sheriff's Office. Idaho Falls Police Department, they have 5 school resource officers. When I received the invitation to be a part of this panel, that week I had, actually that day I had taken 6 vapes off of students. I sent out a text message to all the other SROs in Bonneville County, in IFPD, and asked them to hold on to their vapes that they received from that invitation to this date. And we all were discussing that we all had a collection of vapes in our desk. We've seen vapes in elementary school. We've taken vapes from elementary students. There's a huge concern about it. Historically, we would write if we had a kid with a cigarette, we would write a ticket. And the kid would maybe get a couple days off of school and a fine or some probation. We're taking a much different approach now. We're working on prevention at the elementary level. DARE has been a huge part of Bonneville County for decades, and this year we're going to talk with over 1,000 fifth graders just through the sheriff's office and talk to them about vaping. When we have students who have vapes at school, we have the opportunity now we provide education resources through East Idaho Public Health in lieu of a ticket, and so we'll work with them to keep them out of the juvenile justice system and to keep them from having to get that citation. We start off with education. And we also, because we're so concerned about the addictive nature and the health concerns of vapes, that we also talk to the kids about resources in the school and in the community for cessation and the concerns of addiction and the health concerns associated with vaping, so that we can hopefully provide them resources before it gets to the second vape or the second seizure. So
You have a big bag of vapes there. Do you want to showcase those now?
So yeah, I'll be happy to talk about these.
These are the ones that you collected from the school?
Yes, so these were all taken from students over the course of a few years and over a variety of schools. So I don't want to talk bad about any one school. It's statewide, and it's been interesting to see the evolution of the vapes and how they've changed. They're constantly changing shapes, sizes, colors. But the one thing that has remained consistent is the flavors that are, in my opinion, that are targeting children.
Over how many weeks?
So this is actually a couple of years worth. Just
Okay.
Yes. So.
What are some of the creative disguises? I've heard hoodie drawstrings,
Hoodie drawstrings,
flash drives,
watches, and they're bold enough and they're discreet enough that kids will vape in class. It's surprising how many kids are bold enough to vape in class and how many or on the school bus. And it's very easy to hide, and it doesn't have the smell of a traditional cigarette, and so it's very easy for the kids to hide it.
In talking to some local administration, more than one, some schools have vape detectors in the restrooms. Is that correct?
Yes. So there's a number of schools throughout both School District 91 and School District 93 that have detectors in the bathrooms. They're a great tool. They're an expensive tool. They're about $1,000 a piece. But these detectors, they're a valuable tool to us. In talking with the Idaho Falls Police Department, their SROs, and speaking for the SROs that I work with, every single vape that we get, we test for THC. It's very easy to disguise THC in a lot of these vapes, and so every single one we take from a student, we test for THC.
Kids are smart. Parents try to keep up. Guardians try to keep up. Tell them what THC is and where else it's found.
So THC is the active ingredient in marijuana. That's the ingredient that makes marijuana illegal. It's the deals with the central nervous system that causes the euphoria, the high, the relaxation. And so when we have children using THC, it has a drastic impact on their body. They're still growing and developing. Their bodies are growing. Their minds are developing clear up into their mid-20s. And so when they're introduced THC, vapes, whatever it is, that affects the way their mind and body is developing. And so it's a huge concern. We've had students that have been invited to vape and think that they're trying a regular nicotine vape. Turns out to be a THC vape. We've seen the health effects of where they take the hit from the vape for the first time and wind up with the neck sick, the high.
Real quick, we have more and more stories lately that we're covering where fentanyl is being discovered more and more often in eastern Idaho and western Wyoming. How can a person not know that fentanyl is in that vape?
And that's the concerning thing is we don't know what's in it.
You don't know what's in it. And if it is fentanyl, easy question, will you survive?
Hopefully, but not guaranteed.
Highly unlikely. Okay.
Yeah.
You have a question? All right. Brenna from the health department.
So thank you for sending in questions. We have probably more than we can get to tonight, but a lot of the questions are talking about the side effects of vaping, mainly what happens when somebody quits vaping? How long do those side effects last, and how would you describe those side effects to somebody who's currently vaping versus after they quit vaping?
I would bet from the medical field, Mr. Young.
Actually, those type of reactions, I deal with the ones when they're sick. So you're probably looking at the guy right here that would probably best answer that one.
Okay, Brogan.
So the side effects on like the aftermath of after you quit, I'd say a lot of it is you're angry a lot. It's like not having it in your hand. Like you've seen a lot in the video where they say they're angry a lot. They not having it in their hand, not being able to hit their vape, not doing anything. Just like me, I wasn't addicted to the nicotine. I was addicted to the fact of hitting the vape, just constantly having it in my hand to hit the vape. So like I told Mr. Young here, when I quit, what helped me quit also from my second seizure, but so I didn't have side effects, was chewing on gum, sunflower seeds, fruity Tic Tacs, because you got to keep your mind going to get it away from wanting the nicotine or the vape, or so you use something else, something healthier than that.
Okay, give us another question coming up there real quick. Peyton, as a senior, you're hearing all this that you probably is very familiar to you because you've researched this as your project. What made you choose that as your subject?
So I have heard of teens vaping, and so my group, there was 6 of us total. We decided to research it a little more, so we reached out to a few people, and we realized it was a bigger problem than we thought it was. So we went from there and started doing more research and developing solutions for it.
Okay. Well, we wish you luck on your project. Any questions out there brave enough to ask? Raise your hand and I'll come right to you. There's got to be somebody. Keep thinking. You got one here, or are your friends just trying to turn you in? Here we go. And then, Brenna, get us another QR question. Yes.
So these, in place of getting citations and things like that, the education that is offered, what does that education look like? Is that a pamphlet? Is it booklet sent home? Because I guess I'm a little skeptical of pamphlets and books, because any kid's going to go, I'll take 100 pamphlets versus a ticket, in a court appearance. So I'm curious as to what that education looks like.
I'm going to refer that to Heather here and let her explain. We work closely together with her, and when I assign a class, it's through her program and other programs with East Idaho Public Health. So
we have a couple different programs. We have some online ones that can be assigned through school, and we actually monitor those so we can see how the student is doing. We see before and after, so we know that they've actually completed the curriculum. And then we have classes that the student can go to. And one of the popular ones that we do is called In-Depth. It's 4 50-minute courses, and the student attends that class at school. And again, they have worksheets. The work that they do is monitored, so we know that they're at least listening and learning some new facts.
So there is some accountability, and it's measured in trying to get the education to stick. Okay? Hope that answers your question. Great question. Other questions? Yes, please. I'm coming back, Brenna. Okay.
Well, my biggest question is, in our community, I live just north of Rexburg. We've tried to get information out from other things that have happened in our community. And in talking with kids about it, you have kids walk out the room that say, oh, it's probably not as big of a deal as they think it is. And then we go to the parents, and the parents walk out of the room, and you hear the same thing, oh, it's not probably as bad of a problem as they're making it out to be. So how, as a community member, do we get this information to the community and have them actually care about it and know that it is a problem?
That I administer to schools, so school officials can teach it. I also can teach in schools as well. It's called Catch My Breath. It is currently the only evidence-based vape prevention program available. It is very successful. 7 out of 8 kids who go through the program choose not to vape. And there's also a community presentation. I can do a 30-minute presentation or an hour presentation. And I've actually trained in several of the schools within our district. The training consists of an hour and a half of my time with teachers, and they are then able to teach the program. We have principals who are certified teachers, counselors, superintendents. And so it's really just talk to your school officials, tell them that you want the program, and I will bring the program.
On the tail end of that, Heather, what is the number one thing that an adult, whether they're the parent or a guardian, that they can take away from this tonight?
Talk to your kids, ask them what's going on at school. They'll probably tell you some things that surprise you. And this is not something that our kids need to go through. Addiction is a brain disease. It can cause permanent, lifelong damage to the brain. It's not something that your kids have to go through, and it's not something they should be going through.
Okay, question. I'm coming right there. Hold on. Brenna, yes.
There have been a lot of questions about Brogan. Maybe you can help answer this, as well as other people who have worked with people who vape. What kind of help did they want? How do you approach that? If somebody has a friend who vapes, how do they tactfully go about it? How do they do it in a sensitive manner that will really get to them?
I think that's for you, Brogan.
I don't
Tough
know.
question.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. The only way I could say is just I know personally what it did to me, and I don't want to see somebody else go through that. So I guess I would have to be talking to somebody at that moment, and it'd probably just be one of those things where I'd have to, I don't know, just keep talking to them about don't do it, don't even just you don't want to end up like me, to where you're basically like seizures. That's going to affect me my entire life now. That's going to follow me forever, and you don't want to go through that. If you can stay healthy and not have to go through it.
Can I jump in there?
Yes, please.
So I know I'm on the other side of town from Rupert, but kind of to answer the last question and a little add-on to that one, coming from a medical perspective, something that we've always done, we teach a class, it's kind of ironic, ours is called Breathe, but we do the same thing over there, but it started out as respiratory help, just kind of respiratory health and wellness. And we have focused on vape for the last 5 to 6 years because of this. And the reason for me why I go out and volunteer my time is because I see the direct effect. And just like I said in the video, it's not down the road where smoking, usually all of our, those parents or grandparents or whoever we've known who smoked and got COPD, it was years down the road. I'm seeing effects. When I talk about that in the video, we have, our protocols have changed. We have kids come in and do PFTs, pulmonary function test, which actually is a test we do to test if you have asthma or COPD or some serious lung illness. And we can test. Before, we were kind of stumped, like, why are you having these problems? Now we can peg it. We can nail it right on the head because we know exactly what's going on. And we can almost see it before it starts, but right when we do it, it's consistent. And the thing that scares me is it's happening so fast and so quickly with these kids. You don't know what's happening, and you don't know what's going to happen down the road. Just like Brogan, he's got serious effects now. We still don't even know how bad it's going to affect the lungs. I have asthma. I have some other ailments. I can't imagine what's going to cause the problem down the road. So coming from my perspective, yeah, you're going to cause me more work down the road. Job security, please don't do it for me. Because it's going to really be dangerous, and that's if you live. Because this one's, we've heard ARDS before, acute respiratory distress syndrome, where it actually shuts down your lungs. And the lung, we've heard quite a few now of the lung transplants throughout the nation. We've had one here in Idaho, where we call it on an x-ray a whiteout. Where you look at that x-ray, it should be mostly black. Where there's air, it's white, which means you can't breathe. There's no lungs really left to breathe out of. And that's what these chemicals that we don't know the damage they're doing now. We're gathering information as this video shows, but we have no clue down the road what it's going to do.
With the information you have right now, what is the most concerning injury that you're seeing?
Well, the one that they keep talking about, and I didn't even know right up from the start, was the shortness of breath. I hear it, but the shortness of breath from that first puff, it's your lungs telling you, stop. Your lungs aren't made for that. And so you're damaging at a cellular level, you're damaging those lungs. And so the shortness of breath, you're going to have those bronchioles, those airways constricting. And it's going to damage those to a point which not only those airways, but not to get too technical, but the very end of your lungs is where there's little sacs that transfers the oxygen and CO2. And you damage those, once you damage those, that's the emphysema type effect. That's for life. You can't fix that. The body cannot fix that. That's what concerns me, because now we're having oxygen problems, and it doesn't matter what you do. When you push your lungs, like right now, I'm at 50% because of damage that I've done, not because of vaping. I've never smoked, but it's stuff that throughout my life with my asthma and different things. I'm telling you, it's not a way to live. Suffocation is not a way to die.
And not only that, I haven't vaped in 3 years, but I could still have problems down the road because I had vaped in the past. Because they don't know what was in those vapes when I was hitting them. And it may be, there could be effects on more stuff, I don't know, females may be having birth defects because of vaping. And it's just not something you want. You don't want to risk your life or your health or anything like that over.
So what I'm hearing is the damage is done. It does not self-repair.
Exactly.
Do you still have your question? Okay.
Correct me if
if I'm wrong, but on the video it said 40% of kids have vaped at least one time. What is the age range that they surveyed? Is it like school age kids or from birth to?
That's middle and high school.
Middle and high school?
Yeah,
40%, and that 40% was pertaining to Idaho. 40% of kids have tried it.
Yes, and I just got numbers yesterday saying that 1 in 3 high school students are vaping regularly
In Idaho.
in Idaho.
1 in 3 high school. Okay, we go lower. I know Deputy Sperry had mentioned this too, but let's go lower. Middle school, I know we probably don't have the numbers, but you're seeing it in middle school. You mentioned elementary. How young are we going here?
4th grade,
4th grade.
younger. So
okay.
I believe my youngest that I can recall is the 5th grade, but I know my counterparts have had 4th graders.
Where's the 4th grader getting their hands on a vape?
Picking it up from family, friends.
Parents.
They see it there, and
Older siblings.
Parents?
Older siblings.
yes, parents, aunts, uncles, friends' parents, stepmom.
I know some friends that, well, used to be friends that their little siblings would walk in their room, they would find their vape, and they were 4 years old. They seen their brother doing it or sister doing it, so they were doing it just because they see it, they think it's okay.
The vape that Brogan hit the day he had a seizure was bought by a parent.
Bought by a parent. My uncle actually went over to the kid's house, yelled at the mom to see what was in that vape. All she said was nicotine. He asked, "How do you know?" She said, "Because I bought it for him."
She provided the vape for her son and my son to use.
Okay. I think we have a question right here. Gotta be careful with the mic.
What can us teens in the community do to help our friends that are maybe struggling with this?
Okay, if you didn't catch that, how do you got a friend that you see struggling, how do you help them in the best way? No, and not in the process push them away, and not in the process make them feel lectured. What's the best way to help a friend?
I would say build a relationship, recognize that the addiction is a disease. It's a brain disease. The addiction is real, and quitting is not going to be easy. And have conversations with them, don't lecture them, and show concern.
Got another question right here.
I have a 15-year-old, so this is for the mom up there. I don't remember your name, I'm sorry.
Stacy.
Stacy. There's a lot of mental health things associated with vaping also. I feel like it causes a lot of anxiety, peer pressure.
Definitely.
It really does.
Yeah, and so then the students feel like they're obligated once they start. They don't want to retract because then they're going to lose their friends. And then as the mom of a 15-year-old, I've isolated as well. I've gone really strict, and then that's also a struggle on their mental health. So how did you manage that?
I don't know, a lot of these kids are not going to like my answer. I bought nicotine tests, and I nicotine tested him. I don't now. I think we're past that, but I can ask him, did you vape? And he would tell me no. Am I going to believe him? No. It's 15, 16, 17 before we went through what we went through. I didn't believe him any time he told me he didn't. How would I know? So I bought tests, and I tested him, and that worked. Because he knew when he walked through the door, there was a chance I was going to test him, and he would not be able to lie to me about it. And I think that parents have to do that. They have to get strict, quit being their friend, and start being their parent.
I'll be honest, I hated my mom for what she did. But today, I would say she did everything possible to keep me alive because she loves me and she's my mom, and she was trying to protect me. And that's the best thing a mom can do.
Yep.
That child may hate you.
He did. He did.
You know, it's good. That child may tell you stuff like they don't want to live no more because you're doing that. but they will get through it.
They'll come around.
They will come around.
And that's my opinion. I know a lot of people are not going to agree with that, but I had to do what I had to do. His vaping almost killed him. I had to do what I had to do to protect him from that.
So when he would come home, if he came home with a nicotine positive test.
He never did have a positive one once I told him I was going to start testing him. He never one time did I get a positive one from him. It kept him honest.
And another thing also that I was actually thinking of is like, people who have younger siblings, if your younger sibling started vaping because you were, and something happened to your younger sibling, you're going to have to live with that for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And that would probably hurt a lot.
Okay, I know that a couple of groups had to go because they were short on time, but we don't want you leaving, and I know you got classes tomorrow and work and all. It's 8:36. We'll go until 45 after, so about 10 more minutes. We'll certainly have it wrapped up by 9 o'clock, but we want your questions answered. If you did not get your question answered tonight, and you do have a couple minutes right after, maybe pull one of these panelists aside if you'd rather go one-on-one. I'll make myself available, and I'll grab them for you, okay? But let's get a couple more good questions here. I know there's one there, and there's one right here.
I talk over kids. I probably don't need a microphone. But I just wanted to let parents know that if you need resources for drug testing, Community Youth in Action, we are right across the street on 4th Street, and we have free nicotine, THC, or other drug tests, and we can give them to you for free. So if you need them, come and get them.
Thank you. Right here in front.
Okay, so I have a question, but it's kind of like from a personal experience. So knowing me, like I used to vape, I used to do all of that, but I only did it like once every couple of months, and I felt like I could never get addicted, and I still feel like I'm not, but there's a possible chance that I'm wrong, but could you still get like sick or addicted by just doing it every couple of months, maybe every couple of years?
You could get addicted doing it one time. I did it one time, and that one time was all it took. That one time made it to where everything seemed off, but I also was addicted. I felt like I needed it. So, in my opinion, yes.
Plus, you never know what's in those vapes. I mean, especially those that are handed around, just like they mentioned, you never know what's in them, the content of the nicotine or other Medicare or drugs or whatever.
Big chance.
That one time could kill you.
Oh, we're getting good questions here. Okay, you thought of your question.
Yes. So, wow, it feels weird talking to a microphone. I actually have some friends who vape, I'm trying to get, though I know what I'm trying to say, I'm just having a hard time getting the words out of my mouth. I have some friends who have vaped or are currently still vaping, and their reasoning behind it was that life is too short anyways. Now, I kind of thought this was bullcrap, and I told them, but, kind of believe me, I'm just throwing word garbage out of my mouth. So my question is that how often in general, have you just met someone who just thinks, like they know the dangers of vaping, but they think life's too short anyways, so I'm just going to do it? Like, is that really common, or is that just a rare occurrence? Is that a rare occurrence or whatever?
I was just going to say, just like Brogan said, it didn't matter what you told him at the time until something happened, right? I mean, I look back when I was a teenager, a long time ago. It didn't matter what adults told me, really, The youth, you guys sharing amongst yourselves, it goes farther than I think most adults from what we've seen.
And that's why I feel like the parents are going to have to step in
Yeah.
because you can tell kids a million times, please don't do this. This can happen. This can happen. This happened to Brogan. Doesn't mean it's going to happen to you, but something else might. But I did tell Brogan not to do it a million times, and he still did it. So parents are going to have to step in and like take that control back.
Don't go and don't do something until it's too late. If somebody's telling you stop, just stop. Don't ignore them. Say, "Oh no, I'll be fine."
You're fine until you're not.
You're fine, and yeah, exactly. Just think about this: when you die, that's it. You're gone. So
These are all good questions, and our students are opening up a little bit. Let's bring a student into it a little more. Peyton, we have a QR question for you.
Yeah, we've got several just asking, what was the deciding factor to make you do your senior project on vaping? What made that so interesting to you?
I would say definitely like the research I got, I like realized it was a bigger problem, and in the end, like me and my group, we realized that it isn't a safer alternative to smoking, but a lot of people think it is, and but there needs to be more education so everyone realizes that.
You haven't presented it yet. It'll be at the end of the year.
We did present
You
it.
did.
Like,
How well did it go?
it went really good, and we're happy with how it went.
And the reception, it was well received.
Yeah. So.
Can you tell us what grade you got?
Yeah, we did get an A. So.
Excellent. Good job. Good job. Another question here.
So does vaping cause more stress and anxiety?
yes, for sure.
Simple answer.
Because you're going to be stressing and having anxiety on it. If you're going to get caught.
And then because of that stress and anxiety,
You vape more.
it
You
builds.
vape more.
And then there's more stress and anxiety.
And
it builds.
It builds and
Very
builds.
It cycles. Yeah. Okay, next to you.
So this is kind of a question, but also it's my personal experience. I'm sorry, this isn't a question. Okay, I'm sorry. But one time when I was in 6th grade, 5th grade, I was running through the house. I was apparently messing up the house, as my stepmom would say. And she just goes in her room, gets a vape, and just hands it to me. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I just thought it was cool, and I vaped for a very long time until this last year. So I'm very proud of myself, and then I started drinking and other stuff. But I'm very proud of myself. Yes. It was hard because I went to this residential facility down in Arkansas. It was kind of military based, and so I was there for a very long time, and then I finally came back in August 18th. No and yes, because it did like a lot of things to my mental health. It made me nervous all the time. Like anytime like I would like go around people, I'd get nervous, and it made me anxious, and it always gave me it just made me jump. And so, yeah, but that is my story.
Congratulations.
Excellent,
Good job for
excellent.
quitting.
Outstanding.
Couple more minutes here, it looks like. Am I missing anybody in the back that's wanted to ask a question? Doesn't look like it. We got one more over here. And you have something to wrap it up? No?
If they don't have your question answered by the end of this event, we can put on our website some answers to questions. If you still have a question and you send it over QR code, we can put it on our website. It's eiph.idaho.gov, and we will make sure there's a resource on there to answer your questions.
So it doesn't get answered tonight. You go there, you look, you say, hey, there's my question, and there's the answer. Okay? Oh, and I promised you. I'm sorry. Yes?
So are there any restrictions or laws on the production of vapes?
So there is some newer regulation that just came out in about 2016, but it wasn't regulated very well until then. And there are millions, literally millions of applications for vape products on the market. So there's a really big backlog, and regulations aren't as tight as they need to be.
it's kind of a new frontier,
Exactly.
and it's slowly more so being regulated. Okay, let's wrap up with a couple more questions here.
I have a question for the officer, actually. My mom actually told me to wait, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it.
Okay.
How do you feel about nicotine testing for kids in sports?
You know, I think if we hold our kids accountable and we set the bar for success, they're going to strive for that bar. And so working to keep these kids healthy and prevention is much better than reaction.
Because I know they drug test and
Yes.
football and stuff, so...
Yeah, some schools drug test, not all schools do. Nicotine test is, you know, if we set the bar and we hold these kids accountable and teach them life skills on not just, you know, algebra, not just reading and writing, but how to be successful in life and hold them accountable, they're going to be more successful in life. They're going to be healthier. They're going to our jails are going to be less crowded, and so holding kids accountable and educating them. And so my thought is not just test them on the teams, but educate the teams as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, we're changing the culture of the team, not just testing.
Okay, this may be our last question.
After quitting, do you think like your mind and your body like recovers before you vaped and like did all that stuff?
I still feel way different than I did before I vaped. And I will probably stay that way the rest of my life. In fact, since I vaped, when I sleep, I twitch a lot. Like, not just twitch, I actually punch people in the face.
And the last time you vaped to now is how many years?
3 years. It'll be 4 years this summer.
So 4 years, almost 4 years this summer, you still feel the effects.
Yes. Well, and like, I almost feel like, I don't know, if I lost part of my brain, honestly, is how I feel. You know, my memory went back to crap instantly. So I don't remember stuff as well. I can't think straight. When I think of too many things at once, I just start going nuts, basically. And I wasn't like that before. So.
Okay.
And it's still like that to this day. I mean, there'll be times when I'm trying to talk and I can't talk. I just start pausing and like I am now. I can't get the words to come up.
Well, you're doing a great job. So I get kind of, it's like long COVID for many people. The symptoms linger even though COVID's gone with them. You still have the after effects.
Yeah.
And some people are dealing with something very similar to that. Heather, I think that's kind of a wrap on our evening, don't you think?
Yeah, yes. If you
Okay.
have more questions, send them and we'll.
We've had great questions from you, and I hope it's been okay. It hasn't been a lecture. You've driven this thing. You've asked the questions with the QR questions. Again, go to Eastern Idaho Public Health's website, and you'll find your answer to your question, if it did not get answered. You've been brave in asking questions openly. I've enjoyed it. It's been a fun evening. I think you'll leave here tonight, again, as I said before, armed with education and knowledge. And that's what it's about. So thank you for your help. Thank you.
And all the young kids here and all the teenagers, if you ever get to the point where you're vaping and stuff like that and you feel like you need to talk to your parents, don't be afraid to talk to your parents or anybody.
That's the key.
Don't be afraid, because they're going to be the ones who can help you.
Thanks, Brogan. Thanks to our panelists.